the Jared Verse hype train has officially left the station. And honestly, it didn't just leave when Brian Baldinger was on the Pat McAfee show. It left the train about 3 weeks ago, whenever camp started. But let's just say Brian Baldinger has some big expectations for Jared Verse.
The biggest trades we've ever seen was Myles Garrett to L.A., in essence, for Jared Verse. Jared Verse is a stud, and he's going to have a monster year in Cleveland. Now, he's not Myles Garrett. Nobody else is. But I would say just watch out for the year Jared Verse has. First of all, he's embraced the trade. He's an Ohio kid. He's in Cleveland. It's not the greatest situation, but you wouldn't know it talking to him. Like, just watching that kid work, he's going to have a monster year in Cleveland. That's just one guy right now, but I feel like it's a guy that probably got overlooked because of the trade.
We've talked to some football guys that when you're around them, you just get hyped up about football. Jacob Hester was this way at camp 2 weeks ago.
Sure.
Where he's just there's just such an infectious thing about football. Baldy's that way.
Coach Riz is that way to me.
Yeah, he is 100%.
Loves ball in a way that you get excited being around him.
Me and him nerded out about tight ends and about how to build out the tight end room over the next 3 years for a solid 10 minutes before practice the other day.
It's just how you can get into those type of convos with them and not even realize.
Yeah.
It's great.
I didn't intend for that to be the conversation, but it did happen. So Baldy's just one of those guys that, like, when he really is passionate about a player, he does pound the table for Jared Verse, for a player, and certainly in this case he does it with Jared Verse. I just think, like, monster year, I think is really interesting. Because I think him just showing up and being Jared Verse and help changing the culture is the beginning of a monster year. But, like, Jared Verse has never cracked 10 sacks. So I do think in a season, so the idea of, like, what does a monster year look like for Jared Verse, I think that's pretty open-ended. Like, I think him getting to 10 sacks this year, which pales in comparison to what we're used to with Myles, I do think 10 sacks is a monster year for Jared.
It doesn't have to all be about sacks for Jared Verse, is I think what you're getting at, right? Like, you can get more out of Jared with some of the leadership stuff. Is that what maybe we're getting at here?
Yeah, I mean, it's just I think
when I still need production at the end of the day.
Well, no, but I think the idea of, like, a monster. Last year was a monster year. Like, Myles Garrett had the most prolific, just from a sack production side of things, that we've ever seen. Right.
Right.
That's not what a monster year. Like, a monster year for Jared's going to be 12 sacks.
When he was with the Browns in the year that he got traded and got moved to Detroit, he had 9 sacks that year, and like with the Browns. And
You're
it's
talking
like
about
Za'Darius,
Okay.
yeah. And it's like when you think about just in the context of that, nobody left thinking to themselves, "Wow, Za'Darius Smith was awesome."
Yeah.
That was 9 sacks. Jadeveon Clowney at one point had a 9-sack season with the Browns, had a 2-sack season with the Browns, but had a 9-sack season with the Browns. And it's not as if people left with the impression of, "Wow, Clowney really ate with the Browns."
I mean, Cameron Wembley had a 10-sack season, and I think 2 years later he was auctioned off for a third-round pick. Now, that is a bit of Mangini magic there, but still, Cameron Wembley ended up becoming a kind of journeyman player in the NFL. So, I initially said 10 sacks because, again, he's never cracked the 10-sack plateau, the double-digit plateau. I think if Jared Verse has 12 sacks or more, that is a monster year for a player that is still very much an ascending player.
Well, and so the difference with Verse that I think is interesting is that Verse's numbers, if you go deeper into it, he has a lot of hurries. And he's got a lot of hits in the quarterback that don't result in sacks. And now there's always been that long time philosophy of the idea of, like, some people just know how to get the quarterback down and other people just don't. Mm-hmm. And maybe Verse just will always fall into that category of just he doesn't know how to get the quarterback down, but he can do everything outside of that.
That's kind of been a knock on Jadeveon, by the way. Like, he'd been a 9.5, 10-sack guy, but never really 15-sack guy.
Because there is something innate to that. There is an ability attached to that. The guys that can actually get the quarterback down and the other guys that have a lot of quarterback hits, have a lot of hurries, have a lot of pressures, have everything. And, like, Verse hits this to a T right now at this point in his career because his hurry numbers and his QB hit numbers and his pressures are off the charts. It's actually finishing the play and getting the quarterback down that is just kind of, I don't know, escaped him at this point.
So now, because he's only been a 2-year player in the NFL, I do think this might be the case where he had the reverse of Myles, where, like, everybody that played with Myles, if Myles wasn't there last year, would have 2 or 3 more sacks because there were so many plays, if you go back and look, like Mason Graham may be the biggest culprit, where Mason Graham was 1 half step off the quarterback, and Myles just got there a half step sooner.
Are you talking about the Josh Allen play?
That's one of them. There were a couple plays where
Josh Allen played near the end zone where they took him back, and then Miles ended up getting the credit for it, and it was like that was a Mason Graham play.
Mason literally could have had 3 more sacks last year. I don't know why I said literally. I think that's obvious. The literal sense there is obvious. But, I think Jared's kind of the opposite in Minnesota. I think he's playing with Byron Young. He's playing with all these other guys. And I think he was like a half step off. I almost said something else. A half step off. I think he also might benefit by being on a line with a lot of guys who are as good as him, but not playing with a Myles Garrett. And certainly not playing with a Byron Young again.
Yeah, Verse in L.A., he was with a lot of guys that just ate. Yeah. There's a lot of double-digit sack guys on that D-line. There's a reason why if they add Aaron Donald, people are talking about it as the greatest defensive line ever assembled. So it'll be interesting to see. Now, within that, though, and this is something I've kind of been scared of, and yes, I can acknowledge how great he looks at practice, and I can acknowledge that I'm really excited for Jared Verse, while something I've told you for like 5 months now or 3 months since the deal's been made still exists, and that's the idea that you're not going to get as many opportunities in this Browns team as he did with the Rams. There's more opportunities. There's more third and long type opportunities that are going to exist, and more let's get after the quarterback opportunities that the Rams just had being in tight games late that just weren't afforded to the Browns of last year. Now, maybe that changes. Maybe this year,
if it's a 7 or 8 win team, we'll see.
If you get to that 7, 8, 9, 10 win team area and you have the offense actually scoring, maybe we do have more of those type of situations. But there's a reason why people across the NFL, as great as Myles was in setting a sack record, believe that he could have had 3, 4 more sacks if he had just been on a team that gave him the 75 more pass rush opportunities in prime time.
216-474-0092. At Nick Wilson says, at Jay Peterlin on social media. And Nick Wilson says on Nick Talk. What does a monster year from Jared Verse look like? Now, this is where, because I agree, in the world, in the pantheon of possibilities, I do think that, Jared can have a monster year. I just think we have to put it in the right context of what that actually is. And, if Jared has 10 to 12 sacks or more, and then Alex Wright has a 9-sack season, and Mason Graham has 5 sacks, that's where my confidence is, that I actually think it's going to be better for the defense when everybody actually gets to eat.
I just think there has to be a recognition that Jared Verse does so many things outside of the sacks that disrupts games and disrupts plays and disrupts all sorts of things. Let me just read some of these for you, where he ranked last year across the NFL, okay? He was 5th in solo tackles. He was 2nd in assists. He was 4th in forced fumbles. He was 6th in stops. He was 6th in hurries. He was 2nd in hits. He was 6th in total pressures. That is game-wrecking stats, game-wrecking numbers that, again, just don't come with the sack totals that typically accompany that type of production.
All right, guys, let's go with Kurt in Menor. What does a monster year from Jared Verse look like?
Hey there, guys. How we doing? Monster year. He can get those 10 sacks, and if everybody eats, it can be a great year. I don't think he needs to have 15 sacks to prove himself.
Okay. All right. I know you also have a take on Deshaun, right?
Oh, my God, yeah. So I've been holding on for a while. Anybody who says after 2 wins by Watson, if he starts and wins the first 2 games, which he probably won't win, he probably will start, they are crazy. They are freaking crazy. How could you not be pissed off on the worst trade, the worst signing, just bonehead, classic Browns bonehead move? How could you not still be like, this guy's a jerk, get him out of town, he's a serial groper, don't need him.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
Kurt, we appreciate you.
Up until that last
part.
Many
people allege.
Yeah, but it's allegedly.
All right.
He was sued for it, Kurt.
Allegedly.
We appreciate you, Kurt.
Okay, Kurt. Up until
Just
that
protecting that Odyssey. We're company guys here.
Yeah, that's it. Big company guys. Up until that last part, I was like, where were you an hour ago up against Jeffrey? Could have used you there.
That's right. Could have maybe tagged in. Could have had a Kurt versus Jeffrey.
And then Kurt just laughs after saying groped.
Yeah.
Just, you want to know how to halt a conversation? That's how you do it.
I also like anytime you have to throw an allegedly there and he starts laughing. It's like, I understand the point you're making, Kurt, and we appreciate it. But all right, so here's the thing. I agree, and I agreed with you in your assessment that 2 games is not enough for me. I also think we're just so starved for winning. I just would be shocked if fans don't pivot on Deshaun very quick, because I think so many already have. Like when we had this
I
conversation.
think a lot have. That's like the genesis of what's pissing me off right now is that a lot have, and I'm at a spot where how has everyone forgotten 4 years of history already? The last 4 years sucked, and it's all responsible. It's at the feet of Deshaun Watson.
But when you and I were having this when it became apparent, and it was right around the NFL owners' meetings that the Browns were going to give him another crack at this, and that he was not just going to be on the exempt list, I kind of lost my temper, and we had a lot of people like, yes, you're right, we agree. We had that same conversation at OTAs, which was like 4 weeks later. And all of a sudden, we had less people agreeing with us. Then we go to mini camps and mandatory mini camps. And then then it felt like 50-50. Like at some point in the last 6 months, a fair amount of people have just forgotten about the bad that has come with Deshaun, or that we've just moved on to the excitement of a potential with Deshaun, that we've just kind of, I don't want to say all of us, but that a fair amount of us have just been like, nope, that's in the past, doesn't matter. And that's just, I do think that's a sign of just where we are collectively in 2026, because we're always on to the next calamity and the next potential fix.
I think it's wild. The whole thing's wild to me. And I think the year off helped, but you said forgotten, and I think that's the important part here. The year off helped. People have forgotten that we're in this mess because of Deshaun. That's the part that people have forgotten, and I don't want to seem like I'm being stubborn about it because I don't think I am. It's been the previous 4 years of our lives were supposed to be good Browns teams, good Browns football. They set this thing up to fly when they were going to get someone like Deshaun Watson, and it absolutely sank. It sank, and it's all at the feet of Deshaun, and people are just so quick to be like, oh, give the guy a chance. No, the last 4 years of my life has been awful from a football perspective, and it's all because of Deshaun Watson. I'm not going to be that quick to forgive that.
And here's the other thing. I think they're also giving the Browns a Peterlin pass. I spent roughly the first 3 years saying, why are we shoehorning Deshaun? And I think you did too, so I don't want to make it. But a lot of people just kind of accepted that we were trying to fit Deshaun into a system he had never played before in and that he had never had success in. And then they never wanted to kind of attribute the lack of success to Deshaun in any way to that thing, because that would have meant blaming Kevin Stefanski, who for the betterment of the Deshaun experiment here has been one of the golden boys until he wasn't. So what is fascinating about this is now that Kevin got fired, it is, Kevin was really the problem here. And it's like, did we just flip-flop? Did all the people who spent 3 or 4 years telling us we were crazy for criticizing Kevin, for not trying to build an offense around him and not doing a better job of doing it earlier.
Yeah.
Because by the time you did it, he had failed for 2 straight years. Like, those same people are now like, well, clearly it was all Kevin. It's like, well, that's not what you said for 4 freaking years.
They're lining up. They're lining up to take that claim, and it's just it's maddening to me. The whole thing is maddening.